wasn't looking for action, just some distraction, just a little weeknight, booth in the back. I wasn't looking for romance, just a quick slow dance, on the off chance that an off night and a side glance might lead me to the wrong hands. I wasn't looking for you. I wasn't after forever, just for whatever. I was one of the dark hearts who thought that they'd never truly be open. But this is an explosion of star-crossed and blood-rushed and
How about, does it sound like I'm going through my mic or my computer speakers? It is, okay. Does it sound okay? I mean, okay, it's a music mic. So anyway, how are you, man? Good to see you. If you need more gain or anything, let me know. I guess you don't. Okay. I'm gonna punch you up a little bit. Need to hear you a little better.
We're live and people can hear us. Just
Oh, we are live.
All
right. Oh, I'll keep the F-bombs to a minimum. Only 3 this hour.
Sup, he came on Sports with Friends one time.
Yeah.
And he says, what's your rule on cursing? I said, I don't have a rule. I said, but if you curse a bunch, I said, I put the explicit lyrics on the podcast. Do I label it?
Sure.
He goes, great. Fuck. Good, we're explicit.
That doesn't sound like the softy I know. What are you talking about? Oh, wait, that sounds exactly like him. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Now you're an NWA album all of a sudden from 1987.
It was just so, I didn't think that was the goal. I really didn't.
He's been in radio for 25 years. He's never been able to say it once. So, he's dying to say it. So, how long have you been on Twitch?
I set it up about a year ago, but then over the pandemic, I got involved.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like it. It's really cool. I like just connecting with people and shooting the ball.
Yeah.
One thing I wrestle with is, do I record my podcast live? And I don't, because I think that takes the intimacy away. I think
how so?
When somebody knows, especially somebody that's not in broadcasting, somebody knows that they're not live, you can take leaps, you can take risks, you can ask harder questions.
I see.
If it doesn't go well, you can take it out, whereas if it's live, somebody puts it on.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
So it's what I juggle with, because sometimes I get these great guests on Twitch, and then I'm like, why am I booking a podcast?
Right. Yeah.
One time when the Broncos couldn't play with their quarterbacks, we did a Twitch show, and I picked this guy, Mike Cliff, who covers the Broncos. He was amazing. And I was like, there's nothing I could have better than that.
Yeah.
I downloaded the audio, and that was it.
Right. Nice. Yeah, dude, you were on the carousel yesterday on the front page of Twitch. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so, yeah, they and they keep asking me to do shows. Yesterday was so out of left field. I got a text from a guy at Twitch. I usually rotate, so I'll do them once every 2 or 3 weeks. And I guess they had a miscommunication. Somebody didn't think they were ready, and they weren't going on. So they're like, "Can you come on in 45 minutes?" Good. I don't have anything booked, and I don't have anything prepped. Okay.
You're a pro, man. You're a
But
pro.
it was cool. We had 117,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I couldn't believe how many. Oh, whoops. Stupid thing. I couldn't believe how many when I first looked at it. That was really impressive.
It was
And that one guy in the chat was like, "How does he do this? He's paying for it. I know it."
Right, I've never paid for it. That's one of my favorite. That's my favorite thing when Twitter did that. When Twitter purged all the bots.
Yeah,
People lost like 70,000 followers.
I know.
The
Crazy.
woman I knew, she was a singer. Clearly bought followers. Because
Yeah.
they're all-
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I was in esports for the past 2.5 years, so I'm new to Twitch, because of that. But being on the carousel is huge. I can really help you. Really.
No, it's very cool. And they're very nice. They like the engagement. You know what I mean? They like that I keep people engaged. What I can't do is I can't recruit. And what I haven't learned, my flaw is I can play video games and talk. Like I know how to do Twitch. What I can't do is I don't know how to do video games, talk, and have
Yeah. Oh, I see. And they had like a guest on.
I don't know how to do that, and I like guests because I just think it's more fun.
Yeah.
I would ask you to do this if you have fun doing this. Do this once in a while, like not every week, but as much as you can. And then you get a stable of people like that, and you can have a good channel.
Yeah, I totally would rather do it. That's all right. Behind the scenes of the Seth Everett Show. Put it on the DVD.
Losing focus, hard to notice.
Send us. It's like royalty free.
There you go. Free is the keyword. And by the way, my wife is teaching reading in the background. There's no way I can turn her down. So
We'll roll.
maybe one of us will get smarter. Who knows? If you're listening carefully.
Here we go. And just like that, we are live on Twitch. And this looks a lot like yesterday's show because I didn't change any of the graphics. I didn't touch any of the stuff. Literally, I just said, you know what? That worked yesterday. Let's do it again. And everyone says, oh, it's 2021. Get better graphics. I don't have any. One of the guys that I got to see yesterday in the chat was an old pal of mine, Scott Soden, who I know him as Hotshot Scott. Is a Seattle icon. I mean, let's be honest.
That's right,
and
icon.
We started talking Seattle stuff, and I said, "Why don't we come on and do a show?" And you didn't have anything going on. What did you have planned for today that you were like, "This is a better option"?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, so I worked in esports for the past 2.5 years at Microsoft, and then when the pandemic hit, they canceled the program and they canceled me. So I am currently an unrestricted free agent. Okay. So yeah, I'm around if you need me. Just let me know.
You were in Seattle working at Microsoft. That makes perfect sense because their headquarters is right there.
Yeah, it's in actually in Redmond, Washington. It's like 15 minutes east or so, by Bellevue and all that. But so I live in Snoqualmie, and then I worked in Redmond, and we had this awesome esports program, and then COVID hit, and it was like, see ya.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's so funny. It's not funny. It's sad, but you almost become numb to it because we keep in touch through social media. Like I see all your stuff. I know what's going on in your life, but I haven't spoken to you face to face. We haven't seen each other face to face in a decade. And
since you left Seattle, I think.
For real, because I've been back a bunch of times. I haven't seen you when I've been back. That's why.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. That was
it's crazy though. Yeah, no,
I left in February of 2001.
Okay. Well, I had to have seen you at some point, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just like, this is how we sort of keep in touch is on social media and all that.
Right. And then I remember in 2001, the Mariners were great. And that was my first year at MLB, and they kept sending me back. They were like, do you want to go back?
Right.
And I was like, sure. I'll go back anytime.
Sure, yeah.
And it was really weird because it was weird staying in hotels there because I kept thinking I was going to go to my apartment. Like that was strange. Caleb wants to know if you were there during the chicken lover story. No, you were. Well, Scott might not know that story. But
no, please. Did you share it yesterday?
We did not have the same friends. You remember John Halama?
Yes,
pitcher?
he was a pitcher for the Seattle Mariners at one point.
He came on the Twitch show over the summer, and we talked
okay.
about a teammate that used to fuck chickens.
Really? Okay. I don't know how that works.
Mike,
but,
happy New
I
Year,
think I'll
buddy.
just-
In the chat room, I'm just saying hi to Mike. And
Woo.
and the
For those just
reason I
tuning
know
in.
it, and the reason I know it is John and I, we used to make plans after Mariner games that sometimes he pitched, sometimes he didn't. It didn't make a difference. But we would go to 13 Coins, and
Oh, yeah.
we would go. And the one time we said we were going to meet there. No, we were going to drive together. That was the plan. We were going to drive together. And he says, I'll meet you at the entrance to the parking garage. And if you know the Safeco Field parking garage, there's two entrances. And like jackasses, I go to one and he goes to another. And we're just standing there.
Yeah.
And he meets these two women that are just groupies standing outside the Mariner clubhouse. And so
Fine.
when we finally decide, like, smarten up and we go to meet, we're both there. He's got two women with him. And we go with these two girls to 13 Coins, and we're talking, and we're hitting it off with these girls. And I'm like, this is uncanny. This is fantastic. And all of a sudden, we asked them, what were you doing there? Like, why were you there? And they were waiting for this one other player. But that was the player that had been rumored.
Okay.
And all of us, and I had heard the rumor, but I mean, it was an unsubstantiated rumor. I didn't know if it couldn't be true. There's no way it could be true.
Yeah, that's not something you want to lead with on your sports updates at KJR.
Right. It's not breaking news. and all of a sudden, John Alama leans over to me and he just goes, "I'm out." And I go, "What are you talking about? These girls are gorgeous. Why are you out?" He goes,
Yeah.
I am not touching anyone that wants that chicken blank.
Right.
I went, it is true. Like, that's how I found out.
That was the confirmation that it is true. Oh, that's awesome. Dude, yesterday was a kind of a Seattle-centric show for some reason, so I just want to let you know I'm wearing my best Pearl Jam shirt for you guys.
Nice,
So there you go.
Nice. And I
Pearl Jam.
see, because
All
we're
day.
doing
Yes,
Twitch,
I'm representing.
and the guys in the chat room were saying that I was going to wear an old video game shirt, because yesterday I wore a Space Invader shirt, but literally only because I didn't have time to change, because I literally came in and I got a call that we were doing that show, and I had no prep time whatsoever, and I was just setting it up, and that was all it was. But today I'm wearing, and you're probably too young to remember, Sonny boy. You're probably like 10 years.
I think I'm older than you, but go on.
You're not older than me.
I was born in 74.
I was born in 74. We're the same age.
Okay, well, 10 years. That's great. Thank you. See, I put
I
the hat
thought
on
you
and I
were
hide my
10
face
years
behind a
younger
mic so no one can tell. Really? Why? That's interesting. Okay, anyway, go on. So I'll totally know what you're talking about.
Anyway, do you remember in television?
Of course, I had the greatest football game.
Okay, this is from Night Stalker.
See, I didn't have it in television. A friend did, so I don't know all the games. I remember the football game looked pretty awesome, and it had the little pad, the dial, and the little circle thing, right? I think in television had the little circle thing. I don't know, Seth's tying his shoes for some reason during the podcast. I don't know. That maybe could have waited. Oh, here we go. Oh, wow.
This?
Is that right? You
talking
still
about
have
this?
that? Yes, I am, sir. That's amazing. I have my original NES, the first Nintendo, which it was my favorite console ever, and I'll plug it in and I'll play 10 minutes and go, yeah, this kind of sucks. Where's my Xbox? Like, it sounds like a good idea until you actually play it, and you're like, I don't know. Mario Kart on the Switch is pretty awesome.
Squirrel writes, what's up with the Seattle content? Well, Scott's in Seattle, and I used to live in Seattle, so there's the Seattle content. And I told a
Has there
story
been a lot of
about
Seattle content, by the
a
way?
random pitcher that I knew. John was great,
Right.
by the way. And John, who couldn't do an interview to save his goddamn life, he turned out to be really, really good on the show. Like, he was great on the show. I was really, really impressed. We had him on the podcast.
But what do you mean?
too.
But when you did, so what you're talking about when you did it, when you interviewed him, or when anyone interviewed him, he just wasn't very good. Is that what you're
It
saying?
was brutal. He was
But
really boring and really just he didn't offer anything. It wasn't like he was like giving you the cliche answers, but it was just like he wasn't a good interview. He was a good guy, but he wasn't a good interview. And now he's very opinionated about too many strikeouts in the game and blah 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 blah.
Nice.
That's great. That is really.
I remember I covered the Mariners for like I don't know, 6 months during that 95 run, that improbable 95 run. And I used to love the guys who English is their second language. They would always tell me, sorry, I don't speak English very good, I'm going to pass. And then I'd see them speaking English perfectly to their friends over in the corner. I was like, wait a minute. Come on. You just told me you don't speak it very well. Always giving me the blow off with that excuse. It used to make me laugh.
I remember, speaking of that, I remember being down on the field. Remember I used to have to be down on the field pregame and do those updates?
Yeah.
And we were playing, I want to say the Yankees or the Red Sox, one of the Northeast teams. And somebody came over to me and says really loud and obnoxiously, hey, how's Ibanez's English? And Raul Ibanez was standing maybe 4 feet from me, and he turns around and he goes, good, he's from Miami.
That's pretty awesome. Who yelled that at you? Do you remember who it was?
It was in some media clown.
Some media,
Some
person.
media dude. Ichiro, so my story about Ichiro is my last day in Seattle was Ichiro's signing. The last thing I covered was Ichiro's signing. And
you missed that awesome season.
Right. Well, and that was my first year at MLB, and I was telling you off the air, like I came back like 6 times that year because the All-Star game was there, and then the playoffs, and then there was one other time I think in August. So it was weird. I kept going back, and it was very ironic that of all years it was that year. But that was the day when Ichiro was asked by the Japanese reporter. Well, first of all, that's the day when I went up to Lou Piniella and told him that I wasn't covering the team that year, that I was going to go to work for MLB. And he says, where are you going? And I said, Major League Baseball. And he goes, Major League Baseball, where are they located? And I said, New York. He goes, New York? You know, I used to play there.
Yeah, we know.
we know. And he, Ichiro was sitting there, and somebody asked him about Kaz Sasaki. Remember him? Kaz Sasaki? Sure. And he says, did having Sasaki help you want to become a Mariner? And he said, it's a good thing and bad thing. I'm not going to do a Japanese impression because there's no way. I'm not going to be incorrect. But he said,
we already talked about having relations with chickens, so maybe we should pass on the Japanese impression.
Yeah, but we didn't say that I had any relations with chickens.
That's true. Yes.
And he said it's a good thing and bad thing. Good thing to have someone to talk to about the major leagues, but bad thing because Mr. Sasaki likes to drink, and me want clause in contract. No, go out with him after game.
Really?
Like, this guy's a rock star. Like, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
So
it's weird that it's funny how Ichiro, it's like people in Seattle, like they a lot of them look at, I mean, you're a Major League Baseball guy, you can answer this, but I don't know why so many fans look at Ichiro and kind of go, he hit a bunch of singles. I mean, big deal. To me, he was like one of the most amazing hitters I ever saw. What's your opinion on Ichiro when you think about him as a baseball player?
I always used to say he looked like he was hitting with a tennis racket. Like,
right.
He can make contact all the time. And and he had this rocket for an arm. And I just thought he was incredible. The great story about it, I can't believe I'm telling this story. I don't even know if this is a good one. The Mariners that year had eight All-Stars. And Mike Cameron told me this story.
All right.
They used to make Ichiro say stuff his rookie year. They just would make him say stuff. And what they had done, because when you host the All-Star game, you have to go on the road trip for like 2 weeks so they can get the park all ready for the All-Star game.
That's right. Okay.
So they were in Los Angeles, and I remember this. I was not with them, but I heard this story secondhand. And while the Mariners were able to go to the airport and take a commercial flight wherever they were going for the All-Star break, the 8 guys had to wait a little bit for a separate bus that was going to take them to a charter that the Mariners had set up that they could go back to Seattle because they were going for the All-Star game. So they had to hang in the clubhouse for 20 minutes. Like, it's nothing. And as that's happening, Ichiro is goaded into going up to Edgar Martinez and in brutally broken English just says, "Excuse me, Mr. Martinez, have question for you. Why you wear your jeans so tight? Your balls have nowhere to go."
Oh man, you really said that to him?
I,
Baseball player.
I was never there, but they said that they, to this day, still laugh at that.
Right.
And they
That's
tease
hilarious.
him all the time about it. So from what I was understanding, he was a really good sport and a really nice, great teammate. And I didn't have to get him as an interview. You know what I mean? So it didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way,
It probably helped that he's a 25-year-old
intercourse
rookie.
with
right?
animals. By the way, if you follow this channel,
That's right. Jeez Louise.
we have
Didn't know what I was getting into the first 3 minutes.
Show. They're tuning in. They're going, "What in the world is this?"
Hey, do we have an update on whether or not you sold any of your characters yesterday, your action
No, I
figures?
haven't
Because
set
I
that
have
up
one I
yet.
want to show you.
I haven't set that up, but
Oh,
I
you
have
haven't? Okay.
more of them. If you want to see them, I have a bunch of them. I can go get them.
Okay, well, this is my
yesterday, I was
prized possession,
selling-
and I don't want.
Yeah,
go
the
ahead.
story goes just so we're clear. The story goes is that for years when I was at MLB, I worked with Todd McFarlane, the artist, the great artist, the guy who created Spawn, and he.
Oh,
has
yeah, I
these
know who that is.
Figures. He has these figures, and I have in my office, and I should send you a picture of them. I have about 45 laced around my office, like on a shelf, and they look incredible.
Yeah.
But then during the holidays, I went down to the basement to get like paper towels or whatever. We're hoarding toilet paper or something. And I found this bag of like the also-rans. Like they're not Cal Ripken and Derek Jeter. They're not superstars. They're the other guys. The Eric Hinsky, Matt Morris, Lance Berkman, just random figure names. And I'm going to do a Twitch show where I sell them all. And I'm going to put eBay links in the chat.
Nice one. Well, I don't want to make you or all the viewers jealous, but I'm going to go ahead and hold this one up. I don't know if it's in focus or not. Can you see who that is?
That is Steve. That's Brian Bosworth.
That would be Brian Bosworth. You are correct. This is the only one I have, and I'm so sad that it was once $8 and then it went down to $4. That really makes me sad. Probably around 89 or so when he got,
awesome.
manhandled by Bo Jackson.
That's right.
Anyway, loved him. Big fan.
And yesterday we were talking about a Kingdom finale. Do you remember the Kingdom finale?
Well, in the finale, as in it being blown up.
No, well that was a blast. My favorite one about that. My favorite story about that was the week before the Kingdom got imploded. A bunch of news organizations were asking the Mariners in spring training in Arizona about the Kingdom, like memories of the Kingdom and stuff like that. And I had said to Edgar Martinez, Rich, the great our buddy Rich. I don't know if I should be giving their names out on this show. But
That's fine.
He said to me, I need you to get a liner from Edgar Martinez for a promotion that they were running because KJR had made a bunch of the train whistles. And all I needed him to say was, I think it's a train whistle. That's what he needed to. That's how I needed Edgar Martinez into my recorder saying, I think it's a train whistle. And I had to take that audio and send it to Seattle. And I said to him, after workouts, can I grab you for 2 seconds? Literally for 2 seconds. And he says, no problem. So I'm standing at his locker and he comes out and it's hot and it's Arizona. And he comes in and I said, okay, good. And he forgot. And he just goes, all right. And he goes, I love the Kingdom. I got the hit. Junior scored. Okay, I missed the Kingdom already. Let's go. Like he was just so tired of talking about that.
I'm sure. Yeah, I know. And sadly, that's like still like the big moment for Seattle Mariners for the franchise was 1995.
Sure.
20 years without the playoffs. That's still the big moment. I know Mariner fans are oftentimes like, enough already. We loved it. We get it, but we got to try to make new memories at some point here.
Well, yeah. The only argument, though, that I will say, I don't think the Mariners is what plagues that town. I think it's the basketball team. I think the departure of the basketball team has left a stigma in that town. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think it's subconscious, but that city almost feels like it has a chip on their shoulder. And maybe it's because I'm from a distance and I'm not there firsthand, so you would be able to clarify. But
Yeah.
my perspective has been is they're not satisfied until that wrong is righted, because it's not that they have a great home field. They had to have the loudest home field. Like,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
PR
right.
thing. Like, you didn't need to have the loudest home field. You had to have the loudest home field. You have a soccer team, and you have to set the attendance records. It's
Right.
almost like it's like the little kid sticking his chest out and going, "You see, we're a good sports town, no matter what you say." And I feel for it because I love that city so much. It's my other home, and I feel an emotional connection to that city. But I noticed a change in every way sports was perceived after that basketball team left.
It definitely affected me. I mean, I'm born and raised there, and it kind of hit me that, oh yeah, I guess owners don't really care about how good of fans you are. So in a sad way, it sort of made me less of a sports fan in a weird way, at least less invested. I don't punch holes through walls anymore. Maybe that's because I'm getting older too, but no, it really affected me. So I'm sure it affected a lot of people, and it ruined lives and livelihoods. I mean, you were talking yesterday about that Queen Anne Hill area where you said,
yeah.
That's right. I mean, restaurants closed. I mean, think about someone who was an usher for a little extra, all that. It really affected people's lives. And yeah, I think that's a good point, that if people do have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. 41 years they supported a team. I mean, really 41 years and you're going to pull it away?
Well, and what I remember, it was never my favorite thing. And I'm not an NBA person, but I was offended by them leaving because of the way it happened. And I think seeing that documentary, I talked about it yesterday. Sonic Skate is a documentary, and I know those kids that made those. That kids, they're probably in their goddamn 30s.
Right. I hear that all the time on
Kids,
college
but I knew
football. Yeah, college football broadcasts. Oh, yeah, that kid there. Yeah, he's 21. He's a grown man, and he bench presses 500 pounds. You stop calling him a kid. God. Anyway, go ahead.
And they made that film, and you can't look at. First of all, you can't. I haven't been to a Starbucks since I saw that film, and I saw that film 10 years ago.
Is that true? You really haven't?
I have not. I will not go in.
Good for you. Yeah, it's tough, especially where I live.
No, I know. I know. I haven't gone into a Starbucks. The way I have labeled it is, I'm a comic book nerd, so I have said that Howard Schultz was the Riddler in this whole thing, and David Stern was the puppet master of the whole thing, and he was the Lex Luthor. He was the mastermind behind the whole thing. And Clay Bennett was just the Joker, like he was the villain you knew. And he was the front man for this outfit. And it really took all three. Now, I'm not absolving the city, because the city could have ponied up and voted for the money, and they could have subsidized the money, but that's not the argument. The argument is you had Microsoft and Amazon in your city.
Yeah, you had buyers.
Were people who wanted the team.
Yep, that's right.
And in less than a decade, Ballmer bought the Clippers. And the idea that you sold, and then what the film figures out, and we have a bunch of new followers, and I thank you. There's in that film, they show the emails, and it's really because of Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina happens, and listen, what happened in New Orleans is much worse than losing a goddamn basketball team. But but Clay Bennett offered the then Hornets, now they're the Pelicans, the Hornets to play in Oklahoma City rent-free. And there's these emails that David Stern wrote to Clay Bennett saying, I got you. I owe you one. And because of that, he manipulated Schultz, who's the dumb Riddler in this whole thing, and he sold the team to a known scumbag. And he was just a scumbag.
Yep.
And when I saw that, I was personally offended because of the people, like what you said. Like, I knew the people that worked there. I knew people in the arena. I knew the places around the restaurants and the bars and the that marketplace area, right? You know, when you're facing the arena to the left and
That's
all
right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
I can remember it. And I'm not going to bullshit you and say that the Sonics were my favorite thing. They weren't. I didn't see Sean Kemp. You're there. You're a lifer. I never saw Sean Kemp. I never saw George Karl. I saw Paul Westphal and Vin goddamn Baker. And
Right.
and people
Rest
at
in peace,
KJR
Paul
going, don't worry, Sonics, man. It's this. That's the best thing this town's got. I'm like, please let that not be true. And
It was for a while.
it was.
It's such a complicated thing. The whole state, you know, Howard Schultz, and believe me, I'm no fan. This is not me defending him, but every day he has to drive by and see Safeco Field and Lumen Field. It's now called for the Seahawks. Every
What is
day he's got
Lumen?
to see
By
those
the
two
way, what
enormous
is that
structures.
like soup?
It's like a tech company or something,
Oh,
but that's the new name for the Seahawks.
I
They
thought it
just
was
dropped
like
it
a
on us like
kind of
a month
ramen.
ago.
I thought it was like
Yeah, no, it does sound like
lumen
that.
with extra,
Pop
bean
lumen.
sprouts.
It does sound like a noodle, but you know, so Howard, I mean, it was just bad timing. It's 2008. The economy's tanking. Now he's got to go ask for money to the state, but they already built two. And then David Stern comes in and tries to help, but they looked at him like, this New Yorker, what's this guy doing here? It was all bad timing, and there was some bad faith, and the whole thing was just awful. So I hope Adam Silver does the right thing and realizes that, yeah, that market can take care of a basketball team.
You're totally right. Yeah, I mean, it's literally, you're totally right. And it was just it was a confluence of things. And there's plenty of other villains here, but those three are the easy targets.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and it's so funny because I remember when they almost got the Sacramento Kings. And people, at least that I was talking to, because I went on the station and I would check in, I check in there all the time, and people were just like, well, we don't want the Seattle Kings. We want our team back. And they're not going to rest. If they get an expansion team, they're going to have a deal where they get their records back, a la what the Cleveland Browns did.
Right.
The
Yeah,
Cleveland
that'd
Browns
be
moved
interesting to see how that
Baltimore,
works.
And the Ravens originally took the records, but then gave them back.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know that the Seattle mayor, who was a complete hack at the time, that the one thing he did well was he was able to keep the naming rights. So if a team does come back, at least they can be the Sonics. It doesn't have to be the Seattle Thunder or whatever, So yeah, I don't know about the records and trophies. I mean, yeah, that's all complicated. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But you talk about Sacramento. I was so jealous that they had a mayor like Kevin Johnson who fought his ass off to keep that team there, whereas the Seattle mayor just did nothing. I mean, that's some legacy to let a pro franchise leave. Nice work, buddy.
And then he, just so we're clear, because we have a lot of people watching, and I want to make sure that we're clear about this. Yes, Kevin Johnson did get Me Too'd, and there is a 30 for 30 that explains that story on how Kevin Johnson fought to keep the Kings, and it has never aired because Kevin Johnson was accused of harassment.
See, I didn't even know that he was accused of that.
Yeah. And it's
all right. Well,
and it's weird because I only found that out because I saw that was in the pipeline. You know how you get these press emails, like I get these pitches all the time, and people wanting to do things and whatever. And I got this email, and it was this was years ago, but it was an upcoming in the pipeline, like what the plans were for 30 for 30s. And I remember they were doing the Sosa McGuire one, and I remember there was one about Kevin Johnson. And I was like, when's that Kevin Johnson one coming out? And if you Google it, you'll find out why it's not.
Huh, interesting. God, I love 30 for 30. I'm sorry, I'm making noise. I'll watch any 30 for 30. I don't know if there's one that I haven't liked. Are you a fan of those?
That's another Twitch show that I planned. And you're more than welcome to be a part of it. I would love to get like a handful of people from different parts of the country, and you come up with your top 5 or top 10. And what you'll notice is everyone's is totally different.
Huh,
That's how amazing that series is. It's
right.
Like if I gave you my top 5, your top 5 would be totally different, and you're not wrong, and I'm not wrong. And I think
something tells me that the one about the Boz is not in your top 5 like it is mine.
No, but I saw that one. No, my favorite,
it was great.
My favorite all time is the June 1994.
Yeah,
The one where it's one day.
Amazing.
when the Rangers had their Stanley Cup and the Knicks were in the finals and the OJ
Yep.
chase and Griffey set a record and Jack Nicklaus had his last tournament and the World Cup is in the United
That's
States.
right.
And
Yep.
it was the greatest day. And it was a personal one for me because on that day, in that June 17th, 1994, I was an intern for WFAN. And
WFAN.
my intern job was to go to the Rangers parade and get man on the street, like interview fans.
Gotcha.
And so I remember getting up at the crack of dawn to go into Manhattan to like, I remember that day like it was yesterday.
Crazy. Yeah. I remember washing dishes at a place called Little Caesars Pizza during the OJ chase and never
There's
really
a
got to
pizza
see
place
it because
called
I was
Little
working.
Caesars? I've never heard of it.
You never heard of it. Huh? Well, I'm happy to. It's right up there with Sbarro. I don't know. It's neck and neck. So next time you come out, I'll treat you to some delicious pizza. But
Caleb-
yeah, so I never got to see the OJ thing.
Oh, oh God, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was my day was a little different than yours. Yours was a little better, going to a parade for a champion team.
And that week, I have a great OJ story.
You do really?
I have a great OJ story. It's so stupid. It's so
Okay, go on.
real quick. Caleb writes, winning time. Patrick Ewing can't finish the finger roll. That's a great 30 for 30. But the funniest is John Starks brought his mom to practice, and they tell Reggie Miller in the documentary, and they go, he brought his mom to practice? I could have used that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you forget about John Starks. Remember when he just completely crapped on Jordan? I mean, just dunked on everyone. I think Jordan was under the basket too. This John Starks. I mean, he just came out of nowhere. He's dunking on people, and then you just never hear from him again.
I have a John Starks story too.
You have a story about everyone, don't you?
Okay, OJ first. OJ's a better story.
Okay, go ahead.
So when you're an intern at the Fan, back then, I mean, God knows what it is now.
Yeah.
But back then, your job was to answer the newsroom phone. Like that was your job at WFAN in New York. Your main job was if the phone rang in the newsroom, you had to answer it. And
Got it.
Okay, and it was the morning show, and it was Don Imus, and the update anchor, because this is the summer, was a guy by the name of Paul Olden. Paul Olden was the play-by-play voice of the New York Jets back then. He then went on
Right.
to be the play-by-play man of the Tampa Bay, then Devil Rays, and now he's the public address announcer at the new Yankee Stadium. And
Okay.
I rub his face in this joke literally every day for 30 years. I crush him, or 25 years. I crush him. The phone rings at around 8:30 in the morning, and it's a guy on the floor, on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange with a thick New York accent.
Okay.
And I answer the phone, and he says, "Hey, can you guys clear up a rumor here?" And I go, "What's the rumor?" And he goes, "There's a rumor that O.J. Simpson killed his wife and a boyfriend."
Wow.
Wow. All right. And I was 20 at this time. Like,
Right.
like-
yeah. So I was same
I was
age. Yeah.
I was like, "Wow, okay." I said, "Thanks, we'll look into it." And I hung up. And I go over to Paul Olden, and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Olden, we just got a call from the stock exchange. O.J. Simpson killed his wife. There's this rumor going around." And what I take away from this line is he called me son, and I hated that. But he went up to me and he said, "Son, you have to learn to have a nose for news. Don't
boy.
chase red herrings. O.J. Simpson couldn't have killed his wife. I
That's
know
right.
O.J.
It's preposterous.
Simpson." And so we didn't do anything.
Oh yeah.
We sat on it. We totally sat on it. The whole 5 hours of my internship that day, we didn't do a thing. And I got in my car to drive to, I was staying at my parents' house, and I was driving to New Jersey to go, in my car, and I turned on the news and traffic station. Our top story, Nicole Brown Simpson found dead.
Oh.
And I went, "Oh my God." And then
You guys coulda had
everything
it.
happens, and
Yeah.
I mean, he did it. I mean, come on. And I, to this day, like I saw him September of this year. So 6 feet apart, wearing a mask. I said, "Do you still think OJ didn't do it?"
And
And he knows.
Is he sticking to it?
He rolls his eyes every time.
I mean, that's a big story to go with if you're wrong, though. I mean, I sort of get why the wily veteran would be like, I don't know. We might want to chill with that. I mean, it's just people don't understand. Like, I worked in radio the same time. There's no internet. There's no nothing. And people would just randomly call the newsroom and say, hey, I heard that. Yep. And you just can't go with it. You need at least one sort of source to back it up. So I sort of get his reservation, but that's a crusher that you guys could have had that early.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I know, and that was why when that chase is happening, that Bronco chase, that's all I'm thinking about is Paul Olden. Like all I'm thinking about is we had this, we were on this, and that was like in my brain, that's all I was focused on, and that's why I'll never forget that day, and that's why that film is my head over heels favorite. My other favorite is the class of '83, the football draft. When John Elway doesn't want to play for the Baltimore Colts.
That's right. So it's is that the one about just like the 5 quarterbacks? Yep. Like Elway, Jim Kelly, Marino,
and Ken O'Brien,
Tony Eason,
Todd Blackledge, and
is Tony Eason in that too? Maybe play for the drafted by the Patriots. Anyway, it's about the 5 quarterbacks.
I mean, it's been a while.
4, 6, yeah, that's a good. But back to the OJ or the 1994 one. Was that the one that didn't have any voiceover at all?
Voiceover.
Is it just clips?
Narrator.
Yeah, that was amazing. That really was a cool thing.
Oh, it's just footage, and they kept cutting to different sports, and you're seeing the World Cup start, and Griffey hit a significant home run. I don't remember. I think it was his 8th straight game or something.
Yeah.
It was something, and Jack Nicklaus was playing in he had announced his retirement, and this was his last major tournament, and it was all happening in one day. And in that film, they just go from one. That's the only 30 for 30 I bought on iTunes.
Yeah, no, it's good. 30 for 30 is so great. I feel like we're doing an ad for him, but 30 for 30 is so great that there's things that I'm like, I don't really care about that. Like, for instance, growing up, I mean, we're the same age. Mike Tyson was my heavyweight champion. Loved Mike Tyson. Loved Mike Tyson's punch out. I still know the code to skip all the boxers to get right to him. Loved Mike Tyson. And when he got beat by Buster Douglas, I was devastated. And to this day, I've never gone back to watch that fight. I just can't. But the one about Buster Douglas was awesome. I think it was called 40-1 or something.
Yes.
So good.
40-1. Yep, I remember.
I had no idea that like his mom predicted it, and I found myself rooting for the guy, even though I was a huge Tyson fan. But that goes to show you how great that series is.
That was a good one. That being said, I was not into Tyson versus Roy Jones this summer or this fall.
Oh yeah, I bought it.
You did?
Yeah, I'd like the $100 back or whatever. What, $60? But here,
he doesn't impress me. I mean, first of all, he went to jail for what? And I'm not saying he shouldn't be allowed to fight. It wasn't the money. It was that I didn't have any interest. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so here's another angle for me. So Nate Robinson was on the undercard. He's going to fight a YouTuber. You remember Nate Robinson,
Jake
3-time?
Paul,
Yeah.
Yes. Who's one of those guys you want to punch.
Exactly right. And so Nate's daughter is the same age as my daughter. They play basketball against each other. So Nate, to me, I look at him as like one of my daughter's friends' dads. So imagine if your neighbor was fighting.
Like what?
I haven't seen him since. But I had to see how this was going to go. I mean, I was really hoping he was going to knock that kid out because he was talking. Nate's younger than us, but it's still like I was rooting for the old man, so sure. I had to see that first of all, and then to see Tyson and Roy Jones in the ring together. Yeah, they were older, but you see Tyson in his stance and Roy Jones in his typical stance, and it's almost like a computer simulation seeing these two in the ring together. It was pretty cool for me, and I don't know. I was very curious about it, so I stupidly bought it.
This is not a judgmental place.
It should be. I'm ready for that. I'm ready to judge all day.
I'm not judging. Speaking of social media influencers, though, I do have to remember one of my favorite influencer stories is this guy owns a bunch of ice cream trucks in Southern California.
Okay.
This guy, I don't know. I heard this on a podcast, and he is sick and tired of mostly girls coming up to him saying that they'll take a photo with his truck and the ice cream, could they have free ice cream?
Okay.
And he put a sign on his truck that says, "If you are a social media influencer, you pay double."
Okay.
I just love that. I was just
Well, that's the world we live in, man. That's the
Good.
world yeah. I mean, social media influencers, like that whole thing, just I don't get it at all. I mean, I do get it, but it's just a crazy time we're living in. The first billionaire under 25 is a Kardashian. I mean, she's a Jenner, I guess, but you know what I'm saying? Like, how did she become like? When you and I were interning, you look up to people that were talented and funny, and next thing you know, it's like this world exists where you don't have to be any of that. You're just famous all of a sudden.
my Kim Kardashian story.
Oh boy, can't wait for this.
I was a big Prince fan.
Well, I can see the symbol behind you, but yes, go on.
And I wound up. I don't even know if I ever told you this, but I wound up working with him for a year.
With Prince.
With Prince.
Wow.
And,
okay.
Yeah, in 2013, I did a project with Prince, and which was really random. But years before that, in 2011, I was working for the New Jersey Nets. So this is my only other basketball story.
Okay.
And I was covering the New Jersey Nets, and Prince did the Welcome to America tour, and he played Madison Square Garden. And I went. And at this concert, Kim Kardashian went on the stage and wouldn't dance. She froze, and Prince kicked her off the stage. And just said, get off my stage. And he said, only in America can you be completely famous for doing absolutely nothing. And I was like, oh my God,
that's exactly
I love this. Anyway, she was there with Chris Humphries. Who was J-Lo's. He was a player.
But wasn't Chris Humphries also married to Jennifer Lopez at one point, I think? Or no?
No.
I might be messing that up. No, I totally know Chris Humphries is. Yeah.
He had been dating Kardashian, and no one knew.
Right.
And the next day, the Nets had a game, and I come into the locker room, and I see Chris Humphries, and I go, what was that? And what were you doing there?
Yeah, right.
And that was how Chris Humphries outed himself to the team that he was with Kardashian.
Yeah, I think they got married for like an hour.
If I'm
not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
by the way, Prince is one of the only few people on the planet that would ever kick Kardashian or Kim Kardashian out of anywhere, by the way. I love that. He's like, you got to be that cool in order to tell her to beat it.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And he, and I remember Brooke Lopez and Anthony Morrow. I don't know these random NBA names, but Anthony
Stanford
Morrow just
Lopez.
goes, we could have been making fun of you for that all season.
Right. No one's making fun of him now.
And he's like, I've been going out with her all season.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. No one knew, but then she sort of big timed him, I think. And, she got more famous and said, I'm going to need someone a little more powerful than Chris Humphries, which, no offense, but, she had to kind of move on.
But I just love when influencers like you. If anybody asks me about Kardashian, I always say I've seen her best work.
Fair enough. Yes, I'm with you.
Speaking
By the way,
go ahead.
Of
that, I did something last week that I am very embarrassed about. Do you?
Can't wait.
So, I have to do this. We have a sponsor for my podcast. I'll give out the sponsor, Bovada Sportsbook.
Yep, familiar.
You know who they are. Bovada Sportsbook sponsors Sports with Friends, my podcast. You see the logo on the screen right there for my for this podcast that comes out on Wednesdays, and I got to edit it. And we were recording, and Bovada reached out about 2 months ago and said, "Hey, we have a bunch of people that we have recruited, like they're influencers." And they said the word influencers.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
You have them on. And we were like, we don't care. Like, sure, okay. So we do these little spots with these people, and then they tweet out this thing for Bovada. It's not for my podcast. It's for Bovada. And one of the people was this woman named Lisa.
All right.
And I saw her, and I thought she was pretty, but I just didn't think anything of it. And I just said, oh, here's another influencer, famous for doing nothing.
Yeah.
Not true at all. And I didn't know this. And I'm on a Zoom. Just kind of like what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're recording a podcast, And the guy who does it with me texts me and says, "Do me a favor." He says, "Google her." Can you Google her while we're doing this? I'd
Of
love
course.
to see your reaction.
Okay.
It's Lisa Ann, the porn star.
All right. Oh yeah. There you go. All right.
So
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
end of the
Gotcha.
day, I could say I interviewed a porn star and didn't know about it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, I have. What would you like? A quick adult film star story?
Yes.
Don't worry, it's not super dirty. So when I used to work at a radio station called Cube 93, you
Yes.
probably remember with the T-Man.
Sure.
It was just a pop culture morning show, and there was a place in Seattle called Castle Superstore, and it had everything you would ever want in the world of adult toys. Right? It was movies. You can do the math. It was enormous. So I'm doing an appearance there because I'll take $1 from anyone, clearly. And I was doing it with a woman named Jill Kelly. Jill Kelly was in the business. She was actually, I think, running her own company. Anyway, Jill Kelly is gorgeous. And believe me, people weren't coming down to see Hot Shot from the T-Man show. They were a little more interested in Jill Kelly. So we're standing there, and I stupidly for a second think, I don't know, she seems friendly. I'm on the radio. I'm not just your average dork. I might have a little bit of a chance. I'm an idiot. Of course I don't. But, at the time I had a big ego. I was like, you never know. All right. So I just decided to take off and browse for a little bit. And I look over and one of the toys on the shelf is made after a guy named Julian. You could buy Julian's, situation down there, a fake one. Right. I'm like, oh boy, that's how you've made it in life when they come to you and say, we'd like to make this based on you. Hour goes by. I'm still standing there. In walks Julian, her boyfriend. I'm thinking to myself, wow, I really have no chance now. I'm completely out. In like multiple levels, I have no chance, and I'm really glad I didn't embarrass myself by trying to make this happen. So there you go. There's my encounter with an adult film star. I'm so dumb to think maybe I had a chance. I love that part of it. Jesus, God.
I have no judgment. Like she was great, and I'm trying to get her on Sports with Friends, and I'll put her on this Twitch channel. I don't care. Like she was wonderful.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't that she was. It was that I didn't know.
Right.
That was this because I wasn't ready for it. And in the course of the interview, she made a couple of references that now make a lot more sense. And
right.
I didn't know, and I was.
Sounds like you want some sort of redo. You want another interview, you want another chance now that you know who she is.
I want a mulligan. Hey,
that's right.
Can we talk about one sports topic that I feel pretty strongly about, and that I want to take people's temperature.
Go ahead.
Before we call this a day, there's one thing that happened today that I'm uncomfortable with. And here it is. Kevin Stefanski, the coach of the Cleveland Browns, tested positive for COVID.
Saw that.
5 other either players or coaches, like 3 other players, 2 other coaches, tested positive. They had 5 guys test positive and missed the game last week. And last week, I could make the argument that even though you want to punish the Browns, because I don't know how they caught it, and I don't know, again, I'm not going to make assumptions on stuff I don't know. But I was of the belief that the New Orleans Saints, the Denver Broncos a couple of weeks ago, and these Cleveland Browns should have been postponed, like the Patriots, the Titans, the other teams that have had COVID outbreaks. Well, now you're in a playoff game, and the Browns facility is closed.
Yeah.
Don't you have to give them at least 48 hours and play that game on Tuesday night?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the situation. I don't know what the rules were when they first came out with this. Maybe they said, "Look, regular season games, there'll be some wiggle room. We'll postpone. If you get into a situation in the playoffs, there will be no postponement." I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe, but I know it sucks for him. I mean, he finally gets in the playoffs, and if they play, he can't even watch. He can't even go. He can watch.
Your
obviously,
competition is compromised.
Yeah,
I mean, that's my
right.
argument. Like, this was my argument about the Broncos. Like, the Broncos, if you want to say that the one quarterback on the Broncos, I don't remember his name. It's irrelevant. It was some guy on the Broncos tested positive, and they were in the quarterback's conference room. They were having a quarterback meeting, and they all didn't wear masks. So they were all dumb. And if you want to fine them and suspend them concurrently, I'm fine with that. Like, you want to suspend them for a game? That's fine. Each one a different week. But they didn't have a quarterback, and they were playing the New Orleans Saints. And the NFL was like, play. But the Baltimore Ravens had Lamar Jackson test positive, and they were like, no. 5 cancellations or postponements.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, this is a playoff game.
Right.
For the sanctity of your competition, don't you have to postpone that game?
Yeah. You would think you want to make it as fair as possible, but I mean, then what if a couple other guys come down with it on Monday, and then you got to postpone it 2 more days? I mean, how does it end? I mean, at some point, you got to tell your team, take care of yourselves. This is your game day. I hope you can make it.
I don't know. This is why what I wanted was a buffer week. I wanted 2 buffer weeks. I wanted an extra week after the regular season, because if you remember over the summer, the city of Tampa and the NFL had announced that they had freedom to postpone the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I don't see why you couldn't have done that preemptively and given an extra week, and then put an extra week between the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So have 2 extra weeks.
Yeah.
And that way, if there's cancellations, you have wiggle room.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're probably just
bubble. To me, that's the only way you do it. And look, I don't think the Browns were going to beat the Steelers anyway. That's not the point.
Correct.
The point is, if your competition is compromised, what are your playoffs worth?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't know if they want to wait 2 weeks for you could kind of lose your momentum. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fired up about the playoffs, but then I got to wait 2 weeks. I don't know. I'd still watch it, I guess, but maybe some people wouldn't. Or I don't know, man. It's a tough one.
What else is on Tuesday night? You know, what Golden Girls rerun is on Tuesday night that you wouldn't get a killer rating?
Don't sell them short, by the way. That B. Arthur was pretty damn funny. No, I know what you're saying, man. It is sad. And I thought at the beginning of the year, I told Mitch, the guy I do a podcast with, Mitch Levy, who you know, I said, this might not be the worst year to pick a dark horse, because God forbid if Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers came down with this COVID, that could change everything. But yeah, I don't know, dude. This is such a weird year. It's such uncharted waters. It feels like everyone's making it up as they go along.
It's wild. The NFL, I was behind because they were really trying. They gave the players the option to opt out, and that's not college. I was against college, and I'm on record as saying I can't stand either team playing for the national championship. Ohio State has this chip on their shoulder because people don't think they should be in the national playoff anyway because they didn't play enough games, and I see both sides. And Alabama, that was the school that was having COVID parties over the summer. Yeah,
and their coach tested positive twice.
By
the way, yeah.
Twice. You know how hard it is to get it a second time?
I know. Yeah, when I first started watching college football, part of me felt like it was a little exploitative because these guys aren't making what's the minimum salary in the NFL? $800,000 or something, and it just felt kind of weird to me. So yeah, no, I'm with you on college football. Of course, I'm going to watch the national championship game, but college just felt a little more strange than the NFL did.
I don't know. The NFL I had less of a problem with. The college basketball seems like a hodgepodge, like bonkers. Like, I mean, I'm a Syracuse kid, and Syracuse played Buffalo, which I didn't even know Buffalo had a college basketball team. And they played Buffalo, and some dude on Buffalo, and they still haven't revealed who it was. I wouldn't know who he was anyway. He tested positive, and they all were contact tracing, and they all had to quarantine for 10 days, and they missed 3 games because of it.
Right.
And they were supposed to play Wednesday. They were supposed to play Florida State. Now Florida State postponed their thing, and now suddenly they're not able to play, and Syracuse found out that Pittsburgh hasn't played in 3 weeks, so they're like, "Hey, you want to play us?" Almost like, this is how we're doing the season. Like, it's just call your friends and see who wants to play.
No, it's exactly what the
hodgepodge.
No, it is. The Pac-12 football did that. It was like, hey, our opponent can't play, your opponent can't play. You guys want to get together and get a game going? I mean, it's like what you would say to your friends at 10 years old. You're right. It was just call your friends and get a game. It's such a crazy time.
It's so weird, and it just, I don't know. Everything about college football bothered me. Everything about pro football I was fine with, except for when they made teams play with cases. Like it's one thing, like those early postponements when they were, shoehorning in bye weeks, and like I thought, Denver got screwed in September where they practiced all week for a game that didn't get played. It was Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh postponed the game, and they just told the Broncos, "Hey, that's your bye week." So their bye week, they practiced all week.
Right. That's on bye week.
That doesn't seem fair.
I mean, when it was the Broncos, right? They played that game without a quarterback. That was honestly like the most embarrassing. I felt so horrible for the player, for the team, and for the league. It's just so embarrassing that they had to. That's where they were at this point. That's what they had to do. They definitely should have canceled. But then again, where's the threshold for canceling games? 5 players, 10 players, 3 quarterbacks. I mean, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one.
It's really weird, and I don't get it. My whole thing with it, look, I'm not an alarmist. I don't sit here and wax poetic about COVID. I take it very seriously. I've been tested like 5 times. I've been to a NFL game. I've been to 3 baseball games. It's really weird. But I'm not an alarmist. And one thing for the NHL starting up, and they don't get the television money like the NFL does. And the NHL, and there was a rumor, and this was a great rumor. The Boston Bruins had suggested it, and I wanted it, was they were saying, could we play some of our home games outdoors and sell tickets?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yes, do that. Like, play the games at Fenway Park. Like, that'd be awesome. And then I was like, give the Rangers Yankee Stadium, give the Islanders City Field, give my Devils can have the Meadowlands. I'm in. Like, where do I go?
Right.
And I've had a weird relationship with social media this year because I probably lost about 800 followers because I've tweeted things like wear a mask.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm now considered a socialist. And and then I wrote, so I went to a Jets Broncos game, and it was so safe. Like I'm telling you, there was nobody for miles. Like I didn't understand why I was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm a mask wearer, but I didn't understand why I was wearing. There's nobody near me.
Right.
And I believed that, and so I wrote on Twitter. I said, I don't understand how you couldn't put 5, 8, 10,000 people in this stadium, and what a difference it would make. And I believe that even in places where it's bad, I think you could put if you do it safely and you do temperature checks and you keep people separated. Your stadiums are big enough that you could put some people in the buildings, and I think it makes a massive difference. You watch the Seahawks all year, like that place empty is weird.
Well, it's a huge disadvantage, and I actually had that same thought last week, and we talked about it on the podcast where I was looking at the stadium. It was the Seahawks Rams. It was such a cool, or Seahawks Cardinals, Seahawks 49ers. What a cool game, and there's no one there. I mean, let 50 people in, let 1,000, let somebody in to watch this. I mean, I agree with you. There is a way that they could totally do it and social distance. And it's a shame. And it's a huge disadvantage for the Seahawks in the playoffs this year. Cause I mean, you've been there. I don't know if you've been to the new stadium, but you know how loud that place gets. And it's just,
I never been to that new stadium. I've never been to that new stadium.
Teams, they don't have a chance. I mean, it's such an advantage. So it's a bummer you can't get some fans in there. I'm with you. But again, you said the mask thing. We'll have a doctor on our podcast just to do a segment on an update on COVID, and then we get called socialists and left wing propagandists and all that stuff. And it's like I don't talk about politics at all. I don't tell you what side I lean typically, but it's like we're just trying to get answers here. But so I'm with you. It's such a strange thing that masks have been politicized.
Yeah,
this pandemic has.
And I wanted to do a couple of political Twitch shows. Like I wasn't going to label it sports. Like, I would have done it on my channel. Mm-hmm. My idea for it was I wanted level-headed people from both sides to answer my questions. Like there are so many people that I know that are Republicans that I like.
Well, that's how it used to be. It was okay to like people from a different party than what you vote for.
Yep.
That's how it used to be.
So
Yeah.
so I met President Bush, the second one,
Okay.
when he was the president, and I didn't vote for him, and I didn't think he did a great job with Hurricane Katrina, and this is after Katrina, but I respect the hell out of the office.
Sure.
And he came into our booth at the Nationals Park, and he could not have been nicer.
Right.
And he came over, he shook everybody's hand. He engaged us in conversation. We were in this like semicircle around him, and he looks at the group and he just says, "You all work for Major League Baseball?" And we're like, "Uh-huh." And he just goes, "So that cheapskate, my friend Bud Selig, signs your checks?" And we're like, "Uh-huh." And he looks at me, and I don't know why. I was off to the side, but President Bush looks at me. This is when he's in office. And he goes, "Do they pay you a lot?" And I just go, and I had to act quick, you know? And I just go, "Actually, Mr. President, I'd love to talk to you about that."
Yeah, right. Did he chuckle at all at that, or?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we took a picture, and we weren't allowed to take a picture, but he had a photographer with him,
Yeah.
a White House photographer, and he took a picture of this group, and I have it right here. I have it. I can go get it. And he signed, and I'm not an autograph person, but there's a signed photo from the office of the President of the United States by George Bush, and he sent it to everyone in the photo, because we all had to give our information for a background check. And it was the coolest thing in the world. I remember telling people, like, I met the president. Like, that was awesome.
Yeah. Right. But and you didn't vote for him, and you didn't flip him the finger and tell all your Republican friends to cancel your subscription. You know, we're in this weird place where we're like the feuding hillbillies from Bugs Bunny, where you're like forced to pick a side and fight to the death on everything.
Civil war.
It's awful.
It's like we're headed to civil war.
I know. It's such an awful time. Ugh, I hate it.
It's so weird. And I have friends in other countries who literally are laughing at us. And they're like, "You are the epitome of dysfunction, and we have Brexit."
Right. No kidding, man.
Like, I'm mortified. Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And today's going to be strange because that Georgia stuff, man, that's wild. And from a sports perspective, if you as a sports fan have ever watched the WNBA, the Atlanta Dream hates Kelly Loeffler.
Yeah, they actually wore her opponent's name on their uniforms this summer.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's wild. And that's wild. We had Angel McCautry, who for 10 years was the star for the Atlanta Dream. I had her on my podcast, and she was just like, "It's not about party; it's about decency."
Right.
Just about decency, and
that's right.
Just being a decent person. That's all this is.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. I'm not sitting here talking about your tax plans, and I don't want to talk about your policies, and just be a good person.
It's not a lot to ask, is it?
I'm not.
At some point, this was going to veer off into politics. It's
weird.
Been on the top of mind the past 3 months.
It's just weird. What's been amazing is how everything you say. Like, I've thought twice about tweeting stuff, and all I wanted to tweet was make sure you vote. That's all I always wanted to tweet was make sure you vote, because I saw people that were doing these big, cool videos and stuff, and I thought that was neat. And I said, you know what? I'm staying away.
Yeah, smart.
Once bitten, twice shy. Like
I
don't.
Yeah, if you're remotely unsure, that's a good sign to stay away.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it.
My Twitter hacked this summer.
Oh, you did?
Holy moly! That was
wild. Oh no, I didn't know that.
That was
it sucks. That was one of my favorite things when I worked at the sports radio station KJR. Was people would share seats all day long, and somebody would leave their Twitter up.
Oh, really?
Forget to log out, and then it's just game on. I used to love that. Some guy went to Wazoo and hates the Huskies, and oh boy, type the Huskies at the whole thing.
No, that's funny. It's funny because I didn't. I joined Twitter in 2009, so I had been gone for almost a decade by then, and
right.
And it's weird because I do have a bunch of Seattle followers. Like, there's a bunch of people from Seattle, like just people from there. Like, I can see when the tweets come in, and I can see when people reply from Seattle, and they love that. A bunch of people like that. You were coming on this show. Like, they just it's so weird to have spent such a short amount of time there for such a long time ago and still feel a kinship with that city.
Yeah,
I was there
that's
a couple
really cool.
of years ago, and it was so fun. It was so fun. I had such a great time. I was there, and I had a couple meetings there, and it was really a neat place, and it was gorgeous. And it's a big city with a small town feel, and it's the only city I know that feels that. Like it's
it is. It is like an overgrown logging town. It is a big little city. It's weird. Seattle's like it's like the capital of the tech world. I know Silicon Valley might disagree, but I mean it's crazy what's there. T-Mobile, Microsoft, Expedia is there. You know, all these Amazon, of course, you've heard of them. And it's grown so much. Even since you were there, you know, where you left 20 years ago, maybe, or 10, 15 years ago. Even since then, it's just grown. It's crazy how Seattle has grown. I mean, in 1991, I'm a senior in high school, and that's when, you know, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all that stuff cracked off.
Sure.
People like didn't know where Seattle was in 1991 until that music came out. It's crazy the growth of that city, you know?
It's crazy. And I remember when I moved there, I didn't know nothing. And not to plug a podcast, but I had Tom Lee on Sports with Friends about a month ago.
Your old boss, our old boss. Yeah.
So fun. It was so fun. Hi, Seth. I received the email notification today, but never received one yesterday. I don't know.
See, by the way, that's also I've watched a lot of.
So I don't know. You should have been notified. I don't know. We did the show. I promise.
I've watched a lot of streamers the past 2.5 years working in esports, and you talked earlier about you can play the game and you can engage, but what was the third thing you couldn't do? You couldn't have somebody else on?
Have somebody on remotely and play a game at the same time.
I would watch these guys because the game I worked for was called Forza. I'll give them a plug, I guess, but it's a car game, a driving game, and these guys could drive on the track, but then also engage with chat the whole time. I don't know how they did it. It's such a skill. I know, because if you look away for a second on Forza, you're hitting the guardrail. So
I don't know technically. If somebody knows how to do it, I'm all ears because you can't see the screen, like you can't see the chat.
Right.
And
I know it's tough, man. These streamers, they know what the hell they're doing.
It was weird. It was really weird.
Before I go, I've always wanted to tell you this Prince story. I don't know if you'll care or not, but my sister's 2 years older than me.
We're going down a rabbit hole now.
Well, yeah, I know you could talk for 3 hours or whatever, but I always wanted to. My sister has her ticket stub from the Purple Rain tour from 1984, and it says "Wear something purple" on the ticket, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But apparently, she was backstage somehow, weaseled her way back, and someone broke into Prince's dressing room and was throwing a bunch of clothes all over to these fans. And my sister ended up with a pair of purple pants that were his, and they had the big white buttons down the outsides of the legs. And she had those on her bedroom wall forever, just with thumbtacks, you know. Wow. Seth, you can't believe the size of the waist on these pants.
He's tiny. He's tiny.
You can't, but and
it looks like
a 5-year-old couldn't fit in these.
It doesn't even look like he's walking.
Dude, these I've never seen a waist that size. I remember thinking this can't be real. But I mean, who else would wear those pants? Obviously, purple with it's crazy. I wish he still had them. By the way,
that's so funny. When we did this show, so I used to work for this company called Spreecast. I'll tell it real fast. And for a year, for 2013, I hosted a once a week show on Wednesday nights that Prince was the silent producer. And he booked our guests. He sent us music to play on the show. And he would, I mean, when I say music, he sent us gobs of music.
Nice.
And he would send us show notes. And we were fans doing a fan show, unaffiliated, but where were we getting these guests from? And how are we getting all these things? And there was 2 or 3 times we went live to Paisley Park. Like, it was clear that we were involved with him. Yeah. And it wasn't until he died that I ever spoke publicly about it. Like, I just did it, and it was weird that he came to New York and I was requested to go in there and meet with him. And I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
I went on a Sunday night, and I remember my phone died halfway through the night. And he took the stage at 1:30 in the morning. He took the stage at 1:30.
Sounds about right.
played till about 5:45, and
Holy cow.
he said to me, "Where are you going to be for the show?" And I said, "I don't know. I wasn't planning on staying for the show."
Yeah.
He gave me a tip that he was going to play, and he said, "Go by," and there was this keyboard player, Cassandra O'Neill, and he said, "Go by Cassie's keyboard." And so I went right in the front and by Cassie's keyboard, and twice, and no one has video of this, twice he went like this for lyrics, and he went to me.
Yeah.
He
Really?
I did Pop Life. and
Wow.
it was so weird. It was so weird.
That's like your dream come true. I mean,
was so
hanging out with
wild.
Prince.
It was so
That's
wild. It was the
crazy.
last time I saw him was that night, and it was wild. It was in August of 2013. It was crazy. It was crazy.
I always wondered if Prince enjoyed being Prince. Meaning, if I were Prince, I would never stop jumping on stage with people to show off. But obviously, that's not him. So I always wondered if Prince enjoyed it or not. And I'm kind of bummed he's not here because I feel like the older he got, the more he would have been okay with just being Prince.
Well, there's again, not to plug a podcast, but I did a podcast about 6 months ago with Kevin Smith.
Okay, yeah.
The filmmaker.
Yeah. Jane Silent Bob.
And one of the best podcasters I know. I mean, he does amazing podcasts. And he worked with Prince in 2001.
Okay.
And he tells this pretty famous story about not getting along with him.
Huh.
And he was a big fan. And what I realized, and we talked about it on the podcast, on the Hall of Justice podcast, we talked about it a lot, is he met him at a different time in his life. Because
Okay.
in 1996, Prince lost his son.
Ah.
And 5 years later, he had found religion.
Yeah.
Like he found this Jehovah's Witness stuff, and no disrespect to any Jehovah's Witnesses, but I don't understand it. And he was very spiritual and very religious. And Kevin Smith was supposed to document this album called The Rainbow Children. And Kevin was amazed that I knew what that album was. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, because
Right.
it never went mainstream. I met him in 2013. So we're talking 12 years later, and he was much more comfortable in his skin. And I'll give you an example
interesting.
of how nice he was. On the show, we would talk about favorite tours. And there was one time that Prince played, I'll give you an example. Prince played Colorado, this amphitheater called Fiddler's Green in 1998, the Jam of the Year tour.
Okay.
And I was there. I saw him 22 times live.
Whew.
And over 30 years, for the record. It wasn't
Gotcha.
like, for the
Not
record,
1 year.
it wasn't like over 5 years. Like
Right. It's not the Grateful Dead where you're following him around
like
everywhere.
the guy toured, and especially when I lived in the Northeast, like he would play Madison Square Garden, then the Meadowlands, and then the Philly Arena
Right.
in like over a month, and I would go to all three. Like
Sure.
that was my thing. I was a big
sense.
fan, and we would talk on the show, and I was just like, yeah, I remember the Jam of the Year tour. I was there, Fiddler's Green in Denver. One of the greatest nights. That was the first. It was one of the first times I'd ever seen him. 2 days later, there's a zip file we transferred to me, and literally, it's the audio from that show.
That's crazy.
Like, that's so nice.
Yeah.
And
That's
he
ridiculous.
trusted that I would never bootleg it. I don't broadcast
Right.
it. I don't
eBay it or something. Yeah.
No, that's no. And now, like, first of all, I don't do any of that iCloud stuff. And people they're all with the Spotify and the streaming services. Well, I'm like, screw that.
Right.
I'll do my phone the old-fashioned iTunes way. Like, I'll put my music
Seth has a
in-
6-disc changer in his trunk of his car. Remember that you had to load that up before you left to make sure you had the good shit in there.
and it's wild, and it's wild. And there were instrumental jams that he would give us for interludes. So while we were booking guests,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when I started the Twitch channel, we would play that, and it was no one knew what it was.
Right. Yeah. So I guess you're sort of answering my question is that he eventually started to become comfortable, a little more comfortable
Right.
with himself, and not quite as bitter or sad or whatever he was going through. And the music industry kind of effed him over, right? I mean, people think he was an insane person, but he did that whole the artist formerly known for contractual reasons,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Not because he's a nut.
There's a great documentary, and I'm happy to send it to you, and you can see it. I think it's on, that app, Tubi,
Yes.
TUBI.
Mhm.
They also have the original Transformers series on that.
Oh, there you go.
But Tubi has a documentary called Slave Trade, and it's about when he wrote Slave on His Face. And it talks about how he was pioneering. And I'll give you an example. Prince came out with the Musicology online download store 3 months before iTunes.
Yeah, he was a pioneer of that stuff. People don't realize that. He was
months
involved with
before
the internet and
iTunes.
streaming before anyone.
He was what? And like, there's stories that have come out now that he used to go into the AOL chat rooms in the mid 90s. He would go in the AOL chat rooms and give clues that it was him.
Gosh, that's crazy.
And people would be online and I knew those chat rooms because like we were new to in the 90s. You were new to the internet. Like you're my age. Like we would go check things out and
Yep.
we would do that, and it was always there. And I don't remember ever interacting with him, but I remember that. And then I remember being invited because I had done a commercial for his concert. I got invited. I was living in Seattle at the time to the 1998 to 1999 party in Vegas.
Wow.
And my buddy, who I went to school with, he lived out there because he worked for the Sports Fan Radio Network.
Sure.
And he came out and
Sports fan.
I called him up and I said, "What are you doing for New Year's?" He's like, "I don't know." I said, "I'm coming." And I have these
Yeah, right.
passes and we're going. And
Yeah.
we saw him perform 1999 on January 1, 1999.
Oh,
So fun.
jealous.
It was so
That's amazing.
so cool.
Yeah.
And it was wild. It was totally wild. And that was all years before. And there's an article, and I don't have the link. I could probably get it, but there's an article in Billboard magazine where he was the cover story, and in it, the reporter tells the story about how when she went to interview him, he made her watch our show before he would talk to her. And she identifies that in the story.
Crazy.
And like, I'm a
He
sports
sounds really
guy.
loyal too.
I was like, what? Like, wow.
Yeah, right.
I was like calling family members. Like, I have no ego. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. And I
Yeah,
was just
right,
like,
right.
this is awesome. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I talked to him, I wanted to talk business because SiriusXM had reached out to me about doing a channel. And what they wanted was his blessing and the music that he had given us. Could I play that on Sirius? And he has to authorize.
Gotcha.
Like, I can't just do that.
Right, sure.
And he didn't want to talk shop. Like, he asked about my kids and he asked about my family and stuff. Like we talked about the show, and we talked about some of the funny moments on the show. Like, it was cool. And he thanked me for doing it because one of his band members always said that you only like him because you never worked for him. And he goes, are there one singer, this amazing singer, Liv Warfield, she said to me once, and she said, "Are there any symbols on your checks?" And I said, "No." She goes, "That's why you like him."
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that's I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, I'm sure, but going back to the whole where he doesn't want to talk shop, he just wants to make music, doesn't he? I mean, he's just kind of the bohemian type. That guy can crank music out like it's nobody's business.
And he tried everything, and he literally tried everything. And I remember my favorite era of his is the 90s. And, it's funny because everybody talks about the 80s stuff, and it's good.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing it, but if you ask me, like, I have this joke about the song Kiss, that if you asked me to make a list of 100 Prince songs, Kiss would not be on it.
Yeah, I don't care for that song.
But that doesn't mean it's a bad song.
Right.
It's just, it was
a big hit,
on it.
actually.
It would not be on. And when I listen to his music, it's so random. I will listen to, and for those of you listening who know 90s Prince, like I'll listen to the Exodus album, the Gold Experience album. I will listen to all the New Power Generation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is stuff that nobody in this audience knows. Like nobody's going in there saying, "Oh yeah, I know that song." Like, and that's my era. He had this album called Chaos and Disorder when I moved sight unseen from Syracuse to Denver. And I was driving from Syracuse to Denver listening to this new Prince album called Chaos and Disorder. And that was my life at the time.
Right.
And it was wild.
What was
the synergy was so, and I told him all that stuff.
The album he had that had Diamonds and Pearls and Cream on it, was that the same album? Which one is that?
That's
like
Diamonds and Pearls. That came out in 91.
91, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he was huge in 84, but then I was like, oh man, the guy's got hits again in 91. Like he was so just
and
able to
that's
stay.
when he signed a record deal, and everybody thought he had signed this most lucrative record deal, but it was limiting because he wanted to release all these projects, and they wouldn't let him.
Right.
And that's when he got into his argument, and then that's when he changed his name.
Yeah.
And he said something, and I remember it, and I was in college, and you know how like influential, like I was 18, and he said that if you're always with me, you never have to call me, because people would say, "What do I call you?"
Yeah.
Goes, "What do you have to call me? Have I said your name? I introduced you once. Have I said, 'Hey Scott, did you hear about O.J. Simpson?' Like we never
That's a good point.
talk like that." And so who wasn't able to talk to him?
Right.
Like what were you not able to do? And my rule on his music, and I definitely did this in Seattle, my rule about Prince music is the same as the NHL. And all I say is go see it live. Go see it live. Look me in the eye and tell me it's awful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People say that about NASCAR too. I've never been, but I have a Bubba Wallace hat on. But people say it about NASCAR. Go see a race and then tell me you hate it. My sister said it to me, and my high school football number was 43. So leave me alone. It's a perfect hat for me. But I'm so.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, just real quick about Prince. I'm so glad Prince did that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing that's since blown up, where he plays that amazing guitar solo on "While My Guitar Gently Sleeps," because people I don't think realize what kind of a guitar player he was his whole career. That is incredible. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it, because he's amazing.
And I would say, and to that end, and I completely agree. And to anybody who can appreciate a guitar solo, listen to the song. Go search it on YouTube. Listen to the song "Empty Room." The guitar solo is unreal. Right. There's guitar solo.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever genre you're into. If you're into jazz, he's got jazz. If you're into classic, he's got classical. If you're into funk, you got funk. If you're into rap, he tried rapping. He did everything. And he tried everything. And he didn't revisit it, but he, as times were changing, he tried to stay current.
Yeah.
And I applaud. I would rather him trying. There's this podcast based out of Australia called The Peach and Black, and Prince used to listen to it all the time. And that's how I met these guys. And these guys would review it, and they would say, "I'd rather he released it than not. Like I'd rather hear a song I don't like than not have heard it."
That's right.
Songs,
yeah.
And like I say to people, when his birthday was in June, and a bunch of people on one of the social media, Instagram or one of them, were doing Celebrate Prince. And what we came up with was celebrate Prince with your all-time worst songs. What are your worst Prince songs?
Yeah.
And it's easy. There's a song he did called Wedding Feast.
Okay.
That is absolutely awful. And then in 2012 or 2013, he did a song called Purple and Gold for the Minnesota Vikings.
Playing that purple card again, is he?
He was the Minnesota Vikings. He did like a psych up song, and
That's
it could
weird.
be the worst Prince song ever made.
Well, now I can't wait to hear it.
And the Vikings lost. And I think it's because of that song.
because of the song. I mean, I'm that way with Pearl Jam, which is my second favorite band. I mean, the song "Last Kiss" makes me want to literally get into a car accident. Like the song is like I want to jerk the wheel when I hear that. So yeah, it's okay that your favorite acts have horrible songs. You know, I don't love every single Pearl Jam song.
Right? They have bad songs, and
Yeah.
I have no problem saying that. And we would not. That was okay to say on the show.
Yeah.
When we did the show, and like we had that freedom to talk about our favorites and our work. They made fun of me. Prince made fun of me because there's a song. It's a duet that he did in 1989 on the Batman soundtrack called "The Arms of Orion" with Sheena Easton. And I love that song. I think it's a great song.
Yeah.
People called me
Sheena
a
Easton.
sap. People called me a sap. They were like, "You softy! Like, what are you talking about? That's your favorite song from
Right.
Batman?" And I'm like, "I didn't say it was my favorite." And it was a lot of fun.
Oh, man.
it was a lot of fun. Hey, dude, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This is great. Do you mind if I plug the podcast really quick that I'm on?
Do you mind if I can ask you? And I was trying to. I was going to pump you up and make it seem like you were being very, very benevolent with your time. But yes, can you please promote this podcast that you work on?
So the guy named Mitch Levy, who you know, he was the morning show host in Seattle at KJR, same station you and I met at. He did it for 23 years. He then moved over to the podcast world for certain reasons. And so he started a podcast for a year. And then the guy he did it with left. And then he asked me to come be part of it since I've known the guy since 1995. I used to run his board. So I've been there for over a year and we do it twice a week. It's called Mitch Unfiltered. One of them's free. That drops on Mondays. The other one's a Patreon. If you want to sign up for $5 a month, you're
And I
welcome to.
subscribed to the Monday one, and I didn't know you were on it because I haven't heard it in such a long time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I started.
his episode that he did when he first started it.
Yeah,
first,
it was-
he did
that was raw.
It was very, very good, and he and I weren't close, and I had so much respect for just putting that out there.
Yeah.
That was really, really impressive.
Yeah, that was a tough listen for me. I mean, I wasn't on the show at that time, but I've known the guy for
Well, that's what I'm saying. I didn't
25
know you
years
were
and-
on the show. Now I understand the connection.
Yeah, I started on episode 43. I'll never forget that, by the way. Episode 43. See, my whole life is 43. So yeah, it's called Mitch Unfiltered.
And
It's
you
at
could've told me that's where you
mitchunfiltered.com.
got the hat, and I would have believed you.
Well, when I pulled it out of the box, my wife, who's clearly had enough of 43 talk, goes, "Oh, that's cool. You got a hat for your high school football number." I was like, "Well, there's actually a race car." Forget it. Just never mind. Yes, it's my high school football hat. God, whatever. Anyway, Mitch Unfiltered. It's on iTunes and everything. So,
Yeah.
well, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I'm down to do this anytime. This was great.
No, we'll do it, especially during quarantine. I mean, no one's going anywhere.
That's right.
I remember when we first started doing Sports with Friends when the quarantine started, and I remember people on Twitter were like, "What are you going to do with your podcast?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm going to see what LeBron's doing." Everybody was home.
Right. That's right.
And
What am I
there was
going to
a
do? I'm going to do
month-
more of them.
There was a month, I think it was July, that we did a month of the busiest people in sports. People that would never come on otherwise because they were always traveling, that they
Yeah.
were stuck at home and climbing the walls. So we did a month of Kenny Albert,
Nice.
Ian Eagle, and this guy, Chris Majkowski, who's the radio engineer of the New York Mets, New York Giants, New York Knicks, New York Rangers, St. John's, and Westwood One Olympics. Guy
Holy
works
cow.
320 nights a year and had been home for months and months and months and months.
Right.
And I was like, these guys will never say yes again. And I did a whole month of the busiest people
true.
in sports.
It's a great time to catch people. No question about it, man.
And to plug a podcast, there's an interview with a guy named Ben Anderson, and you say, Ben Anderson, do you remember when Rudy Gobert tested positive and that video surfaced?
Of course.
of
Yeah, where he's
him
touching the
licking
mics.
the microphones.
Yeah, idiot. Yeah, I remember.
Ben Anderson was one of the guys. He's with the Utah Jazz Radio Network, and our boy Locke hooked me up with him. He's one of the 5 guys whose microphone he touched.
Is that right?
We did a podcast with him, and that whenever I promote a podcast, I'm not the thing you're promoting. Like, that story is incredible.
Yeah.
He tells the story about, and he said it flat out. He says, I was sitting at home because he didn't work every game. So he was sitting at home, and he has like a downstairs, like a split level house.
Okay.
And there's a sliding door by his living room. So he's watching the game, and it's revealed that the game is not going to be played because Rudy Gobert tested positive. And he, 48 hours earlier, was with Rudy Gobert when he licked the microphone.
Right.
And he runs out of the house because he has a little kid. He doesn't know.
Oh,
He
right.
called
Yeah,
the
right. We all thought it
Jazz,
could be
and
a death sentence. We didn't know anything.
He goes, what do I do?
Right.
He licked my microphone.
Oh,
Like, listen to that podcast. And the other one that I'll say about that subject, Ryan Ruocco was on ESPN doing a Nuggets Mavericks game when Adam Silver announces that the sport is being shut down.
crazy.
And
Right in the middle of a game.
Poise that Ryan had to call a game but recognize what was going on. Listen to that story. And
That's amazing.
he was on the Nets plane when like six Brooklyn Nets that tested positive.
He's on
He
the
was on
plane?
the plane.
Oh, dude, that's
Oh,
scary.
dude, it was wild.
Putting the
Listen
barf
to these
bag over my
episodes.
head.
Like these stories, I'm not doing it justice. Like, dude, this year has been, the podcast has been unbelievable because of these people. These people have told these amazing stories.
Yeah.
And it's wild. It's wild.
Nice. Yeah,
One of
it's
the
been a
things
crazy year for sure.
One of the things I said that I was going to do is I was going to put Adobe Audition on the screen and play the episodes, like so people could see the lines. And I just don't know if that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you use Audition to record this?
These,
Is that what you're
no.
saying?
No, I was saying like I have the audio and I could play the audio
I see.
through Audition and put it on the screen.
Yeah, that would look cool. I don't know. See the levels
Because it's
and
audio,
like, yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
it's not a video show.
Gotcha.
And then do
Yeah,
I
that's
sit there
cool.
and just go like this? And like when somebody on the podcast says something funny, I go,
Exactly. That's right. Oh God.
thank you so much. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Iliexnu. I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you so much. And I don't know why your name's not on there. I don't know, but we acknowledge you and totally thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate it. One quick shout out if you're watching this show for the first time, and if you like this, first of all, if you want Scott back, you got to subscribe to the channel. Because if I get like at least a couple of subscriptions, then I got to throw him a couple of bucks. But definitely follow the channel because we're going to be on again Thursday. Hold on. I know the time. Hold on.
While Seth's looking for the time, I'll say follow me on Twitter at Scott Soden.
Yes.
There you go. Another plug.
Scott Soden. Follow him on Twitter.
There you go.
Thank you so much for the donation. We're on 2:30 Eastern time. 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. We are live again right there on this channel. So Thursday. So we're not there tomorrow, but we are on Thursday, and I've got some more surprises for you. Or we're just going to replay this. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, call my agent first before you replay this. All right. Thanks, Seth. It's so great to do this and to see you and talk to you. And
fun, man.
one day we'll see each other in person, I hope. But I'm available anytime to come do this again. So
This would
please
be
reach
great.
out.
I would love to have you on. And now I know what your hat is, so now you have to wear that every time.
That's right. I will. Go Pearl Jam and go Hawks. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next time. And thank you again for the follows and the donations. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.